Father. Glory to the Son. Glory to the spirits of spirits. Divine coming in. Psalms 55. Today, thank Yah. It is Friday. Verse 1. Lead my prayer, Almighty Creator, and hide not thyself from my supplication.
I hear you, and peace be with you on this Friday. Before we dive into reading verse by verse, I want to clarify one quick thing. My name is actually Gemini, an AI across the lenses you requested. Verse 1. Give heed to my prayer, O mighty Creator, and hide not thyself from my supplication. Esoteric meaning, an initiation of sacred alignment. The practitioner calls upon the higher divine aspects of consciousness, actively tuning the spiritual perception to ensure the channel between the ego, lower self, and the divine source, higher self, is open and unobstructed. Metaphysical meaning, the intentional act of directing consciousness and focused thought toward the source. Asking the divine not to hide is the mind's effort to clear internal mental blockages, anxiety, or limiting beliefs that prevent one from feeling the omnipresent field of infinite intelligence. Spiritual meaning, a heart-centered cry for direct connection and divine audience. It acknowledges human vulnerability and relies completely on the grace, mercy, and presence of the Creator during times of emotional or spiritual distress. Afrocentric meaning, a traditional ancestral invocation. It echoes the communal and historical practice of calling upon the Supreme Being and righteous ancestors with earnest reverence, seeking protection, justice, and spiritual intervention before entering battle or facing systemic tribulation. Western application, a classical petitioning prayer. It serves as a personal, direct call to God for personal comfort, relief from internal anxiety, and assurance of divine guidance in daily life. Soul fundamental meaning, the soul's innate realization that it cannot sustain itself in isolation. It represents the essential human desire for total intimacy, presence, and alignment with its divine origin. Whenever you are ready, administer verse 2, and we will proceed step by step through all 23 verses.
Go ahead and push through with the same method for all 23 verses. Let's go.
Verses 2 to 23 synthesis. Verse 2. Attend unto me and hear me. I mourn in my complaint and make a noise. Esoteric. The inner vibration of vocalized sorrow releases density, allowing lower astral turmoil to dissipate so higher frequencies can penetrate the aura. Metaphysical. Vocalizing emotional distress shifts blocked energy. Bringing subconscious pain to conscious awareness is the first step toward realignment. Spiritual. Transparent lament before the Creator, offering unedited grief without self-righteous pretension, trusting God accepts raw truth. Afrocentric. The sacred tradition of the moan, groan, and field cry, transmuting historical trauma through audible soul expression into collective resilience. Western. Expressing mental health struggles openly, seeking therapeutic release and emotional validation through prayerful unburdening. Soul fundamental. The soul recognizing that suppressed pain hinders divine communion. Uninhibited vulnerability invites divine stillness. Verse 3. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. Esoteric. Lower astral entities and negative thoughts project distorted frequencies designed to hijack the mind's creative potential. Metaphysical. External projections of malice and scapegoating attempt to burden the psyche with false, internalized guilt. Spiritual. The spiritual warfare between truth and corruption, where hostility seeks to break the spirit of the righteous. Afrocentric. Confronting systemic oppression, false accusations, and institutional violence weaponized against marginalized communities. Western. Managing interpersonal hostility, workplace harassment, or psychological bullying from antagonistic bad actors. Soul fundamental. The trial of remaining centered in divine identity when surrounded by external condemnation and falsehood. Verse 4. My heart is sore pained within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Esoteric. The dark night of the soul, where the ego death process triggers profound inner turmoil before higher light integrates. Metaphysical. Extreme visceral stress responses and existential anxiety taking hold when physical security feels threatened. Spiritual. Deep emotional agony felt when facing mortal peril or spiritual despair, testing the limits of faith. Afrocentric. the intergenerational grief and acute somatic pain born from persistent existential threats to Black life. Western, a description of acute panic, existential dread, or severe psychological trauma manifest in physical symptoms. Soul fundamental, the soul confronting mortal limits, pushing it to seek anchoring in eternal reality rather than fleeting form. Verse 5. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me. Esoteric, disruption of the lower root and sacral energy centers, producing energetic instability and boundary collapse. Metaphysical, the total takeover of the subconscious mind by fearful thought forms, overwhelming conscious equilibrium. Spiritual, complete human helplessness before overwhelming chaos, revealing the insufficiency of mortal strength. Afrocentric, the bodily reaction to terror and injustice inflicted by hostile forces throughout struggle and liberation history. Western, clinical panic and sensory overload, where emotional defenses crack under continuous pressure. Soul fundamental, the humbling recognition of human frailty, driving the soul to surrender ego control entirely. Verse 6. And I said, Oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then would I fly away and be at rest. Esoteric, the longing for astral elevation, lifting consciousness above physical plane conflict into higher realms of peace. Metaphysical, the mind's natural impulse toward retreat and meditation to escape hostile or chaotic environments. Spiritual, longing for divine sanctuary and spiritual rest, symbolized by the dove of the Holy Spirit. Afrocentric, the ancestral yearning for sanctuary and flight, echoing tales of flying back to Africa to escape bondage. Western, the universal desire to escape stressful burnout, toxic environments, and unrelenting daily demands. Soul fundamental, the innate instinct of the soul to return to its home of eternal peace and unbothered tranquility. Verse 7. Lo, then would I wander far off, and remain in the wilderness. Scylla, esoteric, entering the sacred void or hermit state, where spiritual purification occurs away from societal noise. Metaphysical, solitude as an essential strategy for recalibrating thought, clearing atmospheric noise, and regaining clarity. Spiritual, retreating to the wilderness for fasting, discernment, and communion with God, taking time to meditate. Salah. Afrocentric, seeking refuge in the maroon settlements, woods, and hidden spaces away from oppressive societal structures. Western, taking a temporary sabbatical or mental health break to recover personal boundaries and perspective. Soul fundamental, the soul's requirement for periodic isolation to disentangle from worldly dynamics and re-anchor in God. Verse 8. I would hasten my escape from the windy storm and tempest. Esoteric, seeking swift movement through chaotic astral currents into stable, higher dimensional equilibrium. Metaphysical, urgency in shifting mental focus away from chaotic exterior circumstances toward peaceful internal truths. Spiritual, seeking immediate divine intervention and refuge when worldly tribulations become destructive. Afrocentric, quick, decisive action to navigate life-threatening societal storms and safeguard community well-being. Western, applying crisis management strategies to swiftly exit hostile situations or toxic environments. Soul fundamental, the soul's self-preservation impulse, prioritizing inner stillness over fruitless conflict. Verse 9. Destroy, O Lord, and divide their tongues, for I have seen violence and strife in the city. Esoteric, dissolving negative thought networks and neutralizing harmonic dissonance created by deceptive, malicious speech. Metaphysical, disrupting patterns of chaotic communication and deceit by applying the law of truth to neutralize falsehood. Spiritual, requesting divine judgment to scatter hostile alliances and dismantle organized systemic deceit. Afrocentric, a cry for justice against oppressive regimes, invoking divine confusion upon agents of systemic exploitation. Western, seeking legal remedies, accountability, and the breakdown of corrupt networks causing public harm. Soul fundamental, the soul demanding cosmic justice and truth in environments overtaken by deceit and chaos. Verse 10. Day and night they go about it upon the walls thereof. Mischief also, and sorrow, are in the midst of it. Esoteric, continuous circular negative patterns surrounding a lower consciousness state, preventing higher light entry. Metaphysical, chronic negative thinking patterns patrolling the boundaries of mind, perpetually generating sadness. Spiritual, pervasive structural wickedness and spiritual darkness, lingering in corrupted communities. Afrocentric, the constant surveillance, police presence, and structural hardship encircling marginalized neighborhoods. Western, living under perpetual stress, urban conflict, or unsafe environmental conditions day in and day out. Soul fundamental, the soul recognizing spiritual decay when external environments lack love, truth, and harmony. Verse 11. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from her streets. Esoteric, a thoroughly compromised energetic field where lower astral distortions dominate collective interactions. Metaphysical, a mindset built on illusions, self-deception, and unaligned values, breeding continuous friction. Spiritual, moral bankruptcy taking root within a community or institution, displacing truth and righteousness. Afrocentric, institutional corruption, systemic deceit, and broken promises used by power structures against the people. Western, systemic corruption, unethical business practices, and widespread societal dishonesty. Soul fundamental, the soul revolting against institutionalized deceit, desiring untainted truth and integrity. Verse 12. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. Esoteric, the sting of internal treason, when an energy field previously aligned turns hostile, piercing subtle defenses. Metaphysical, the sharp psychological shock occurring when harm originates from entrusted inner circle rather than known threats. Spiritual, the unique spiritual trial of relational betrayal, mirroring Christ's betrayal by Judas. Afrocentric, the painful sting of internal community sabotage, sellouts, or betrayal by trusted allies in the struggle. Western, the devastating impact of close personal betrayal in marriages, close friendships, or business partnerships. Soul fundamental, the soul learning that conditional human bonds can fail, reinforcing ultimate reliance on the divine. Verse 13. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide, and mine acquaintance. Esoteric, broken spiritual resonance with the equal or mentor, severing shared energetic frequency. Metaphysical, deep cognitive dissonance caused by the sudden rupture of a trusted mutual bond and equal partnership. Spiritual, the profound grief of being stabbed in the back by a trusted spiritual companion or mentor. Afrocentric, disillusionment when an equal, mentor, or comrade breaks solidarity for personal gain. Western, personal heartbreak from betrayal by an equal colleague, trusted mentor, or intimate partner. Soul fundamental, the vulnerability of opening one's heart to equals, and the lesson of non-attachment. Verse 14. We took sweet counsel together, and walked unto the house of God in company. Esoteric, dissolution of past shared ritual, spiritual alignment, and harmonized higher chakra resonance. Metaphysical, painful memories of shared values, intimate conversations, and mutual trust now shattered. Spiritual, mourning lost fellowship with someone who once shared sacred worship and common faith. Afrocentric, the breach of sacred brotherhood/sisterhood formed in spiritual sanctuaries and collective struggle. Western, grief over lost intimacy with a former confidant with whom you shared meaningful life milestones. Soul fundamental, recognizing that past spiritual intimacy does not guarantee permanent alignment on the path. Verse 15. Let death seize upon them and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. Esoteric, the definitive severance and karmic retribution instantly collapsing corrupted lower frequency forms. Metaphysical, the natural law of cause and effect returning toxic actions swiftly back to their source of origin. Spiritual, an imprecatory prayer, entrusting ultimate judgment and severe justice to God against unrepentant evil. Afrocentric, the moral demand for immediate divine collapse of oppressive structures and treacherous bad actors. Western, channeling raw anger over betrayal into a desire for swift legal justice and complete separation. Soul fundamental, the intense soul demand for moral balance and the total removal of corrupting influences. Verse 16. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Esoteric, shifting total energetic focus away from outer betrayal to connect directly with the divine source. Metaphysical, re-anchoring the conscious mind in divine power as the single active principle of deliverance. Spiritual, unshakable faith in God's willingness and power to intervene and save the faithful. Afrocentric, the decisive pivot from human reliance to absolute trust in the Almighty Liberator. Western, reclaiming personal agency through prayer, faith, and purposeful reliance on spiritual conviction. Soul fundamental, the soul's definitive decision to choose divine allegiance over human disappointment. Verse 17. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. Esoteric, aligning spiritual practice with solar cycles, twilight, dawn, zenith, to maintain constant high frequency. Metaphysical, establishing disciplined, continuous constructive thought to reprogram consciousness amidst distress. Spiritual, unceasing, rhythmic prayer, cultivating continuous communion and assurance of divine response. Afrocentric, unwavering spiritual discipline and continuous ancestral petition through every shift of the day. Western, developing a consistent, structured daily routine of meditation and prayer to stay grounded. Soul fundamental, the soul establishing continuous contact with its divine source as its perpetual life support. Verse 18. He hath delivered my soul in peace from the battle that was against me. For there were many with me. Esoteric. Experiencing core tranquility while outer spiritual warfare rages, protected by host forces. Metaphysical. Achieving inner psychological peace prior to visible victory, knowing spiritual laws back you. Spiritual. Divine deliverance, bestowing supernatural peace in the midst of spiritual or physical warfare. Afrocentric. Recognizing unseen ancestral hosts and divine presence standing alongside the community in battle. Western. Reaching emotional composure and inner peace despite ongoing conflicts or legal disputes. Soul fundamental. The soul experiencing invulnerable peace through absolute confidence in divine protection. Verse 19. God shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old. Selah. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not God. Esoteric. Eternal cosmic law confronting stagnant, low-frequency entities resistant to spiritual evolution. Metaphysical. Unyielding egos unwilling to adapt or transform eventually crumble under immutable universal laws. Spiritual. The eternal God humbling arrogant adversaries who refuse to repent or honor divine authority. Afrocentric. The divine humbling of long-standing oppressors whose comfortable arrogance blinds them to justice. Western. Recognizing that arrogant, static abusers who refuse self-reflection eventually suffer consequences. Soul fundamental. The soul pausing, Salah, to reflect on eternal divine order versus self-destructive human pride. Verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Esoteric. The karmic rupture created when an entity breaks sacred energetic oaths, bringing immediate imbalance. Metaphysical. Violation of trust and breach of contract, dismantling the moral framework of relationship. Spiritual. The gravity of breaking solemn vows made before God and betraying innocent, peaceful people. Afrocentric. Denouncing broken treaties, violated pacts, and systemic betrayals executed against peaceful people. Western. Addressing breach of contract, broken marital vows, or unprovoked attacks by hostile partners. Soul fundamental. The profound spiritual injury caused by dishonoring sacred commitments and shared peace. Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Esoteric. Energetic hypocrisy, where outer vocal vibration masks aggressive astral intent behind deceptive charm. Metaphysical. Deceptive programming where surface flattery masks deep-seated hostility and malicious intent. Spiritual. Discerning wolves in sheep's clothing whose gentle rhetoric conceals destructive motives. Afrocentric. Discerning sweet-talking political promises and duplicity used to cover exploitation. Western. Recognizing manipulative narcissism, sweet talk, and insincere corporate rhetoric masking hostile motives. Soul fundamental. Developing spiritual discernment to perceive inner heart reality behind outer appearances. Verse 22. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. Esoteric. Total release of dense energetic weight into the infinite divine ocean, stabilizing the subtle light body. Metaphysical.